out here. So I always felt like maybe I had a little experience there.
You know, during that time, they had a guy in New Orleans who would do Tarzan, and you would hear Tarzan like randomly downtown. He was spot on 1930s. I'm not even going to pretend to try to do that.
I don't think it was him. I don't think it was him. I don't think it was him.
I'm just saying.
I live in the middle of the woods. Where I was living was in the middle of the woods. It was dead quiet. There's nobody around. It was like that.
Which,
creepy.
to be honest, even if it was somebody, an actual person doing that battle cry, I would have ran too. Like, that's still terrifying. But
it was terrifying.
You would have known. You would have. You wouldn't know if it was a person behind
it. It was terrifying. So it could have just been an animal or something, but it scared me enough where it stuck with me. So I've always thought about that as one of my strange paranormal experiences.
Yeah, it sounds like it came out of nowhere.
And it sounds like it definitely stuck with you for a long time.
Right?
Yeah, and I can still hear it. I can still hear like the it was the weirdest sound. The strangest sound.
Well, I'm glad you reenacted it, honestly, because I was a little curious about how it sounded.
Listen, okay.
I would have been frightened by that sound behind me too.
Okay, I don't want to hear it.
Oh man.
Hear the ET telling us that you're hearing like, blah.
Oh, that's yeah, that's right. Your ET stories too about the sitting straight in your room.
Yeah, all right. So Dre, you got some creepy stories?
Oh my goodness. Well, the thing is, I've had so many things happen, but each time was like a brief something. So I'm obviously not going to go through the whole catalog. I will say I've never seen, a full-bodied apparition.
Well, those are pretty rare anyway.
I guess I'll just go through 3 of the main ones that have to do with me hearing things that are just unmistakable, because the things that you do see, it's kind of easier for me to be like, I don't know, there's some kind of physics to explain why that thing fell or looked like it was pushed off of something. But, really brief interactions like that. I guess the house that I grew up in, I have 2 main ones of just hearing something that was just, awful. One of them was fine. It was a little bit more innocent. I was kind of babysitting. My sister is about 5 years younger than me or something like that. I don't even know. I'm a bad older sister. I was around high school age, sitting watching TV in my mom's room because their bed was just the most comfortable. So, and that's a place where, if anything that I ever saw that I had seen out of the corner of my eye, because there's kind of like a little cutaway in the hallway. If you're sitting in the living room on the computer or whatever, you can see into my parents' room, and it has a view kind of like of where their walk-in closet is. And I had seen something just kind of, white-ish, and just kind of go left to right really quick. I didn't see, the form of it, just that the height would have been, I don't know, about, I guess my height. It didn't look like a child's height. But so when I was sitting on this bed at a whole different time, I remember hearing, like, my sister was supposed to be in bed, but she and I didn't have a very good, rapport going. She was a massive brat, and I had very little patience for her. This is something that she would do. I hear next to me in the space between my mom's bed and that very closet, like it just, like an exasperated kind of little sigh, like someone who's just bored or like trying to just hint at like, hey, I'm here, what the heck? And I immediately, I was so convinced it was her that I was like, all right, like, I get it. You're being bad. You're supposed to be in bed. Like, I was like, I get it. I was like, just go to bed, dude. Like, really? And then, like, I didn't hear any wrestling or any more protest, because at that point she would normally do something annoying and be like, just like giggle or like say something, try to insult me or whatever. And nothing. So then I look over, and of course there's nothing there. So I'm like, okay, let me just go and check on her, see where she is. Maybe somehow she crawled out of there really quick. I don't know. She would have been,
That's so creepy. You had to be the creepiest kid. My kids are creepy like that too. All 3 of them have claimed to see spirits in this house of a little kid, and they seem like legitimately semi-freaked out, but then it goes away for a while. It's strange.
I feel like that makes sense for some reason. I could understand, like, Russ's kids would be talking to ghosts, I think, at his house right now. I'm not really surprised.
Go on to your podcast and talk about, looking at these aliens and everything. But no, there is a thing about kids being more open to this kind of thing, or just being able to see it more. And then that's something that I brought up. Yeah, right? So, and then something that I had on our show was how, like, when you're going through like puberty, or just for some reason when you're in adolescent age, that seems to be like some kind of, I don't know, beacon for that kind of stuff. And so, like, the majority of my experiences, the ones that shook me the most, except for one that I'm thinking of, happened around that time, around, middle school through high school. So the next one being a couple years later, I was sitting in my bedroom, because stuff was always happening in this house, but little small things. So this is the one that really shook me the most, like, out of my entire life. I was sitting on, I had like a futon thing, so I'm sitting there drawing, because that's just what I constantly did. And I'm about 5 feet or so from my closet is on my left. And you know how your brain kind of goes through like these little moments of processing something that's happening very quickly because it's not sure what to make of it. At first, I think I'm hearing the hissing of water pipes. Like in the next half a second, thought was, my brothers are messing with me somehow. And then it was just undeniable. Yeah, same thing as Rob. Like, I remember this sound. It is unforgettable. Yeah, it was definitely a snake, Russ. How did you know? No, so, and the thing is, it came and rushed up right, and it stopped right next to my ear. Like, what it felt, it would be inches from my face. And it was like just like that, like a really breathy creep. It was so ugly. I get chills every time, and I still have no idea what it was. And well, luckily it stopped. Like I said, it felt like inches from my ear, like where it would just, I still can't explain it, obviously. At that point, I was a doubting Catholic. I didn't believe in the church. I didn't believe in God or anything like that anymore. But I was going to catechism classes, and I was going to go through my confirmation and everything for my mom because she really wanted me to. So I did have a Bible and like St. Michael's prayer card under my bed. So I grabbed that and I read it and I said, like, you cannot, I think I may have cussed a little bit. I don't remember. I was really shook, like I said. And I was just like, you just can't do this to me because I've been living here my whole life. I'm like, this is my home. This is my room. You can't do this. You can't be here. And nothing else ever happened in that house. I was only there for another year. That was the scariest. I've had other ones since that, at least one that I had that was really corroborated by somebody else for once. I could bring that up another time, or I don't know if you guys want to share another story or anything else. I don't want to take up too much time here.
I just want to say overall, that's why I think it is good for there to be a lot of like conversation about stuff like this, and a lot of, people that do try to do things to, alleviate ghosts, and that people should be a little more open about it. Talk about it if it's happening to you. Don't be tortured for years when there are ways, there are positive things you can do to, hopefully either eliminate it or remove yourself from the situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and not be traumatized and be called a weirdo or something because it's actually happening.
Well, we've talked about that on a number of different shows where by just asking the ghost to leave oftentimes will help and they will go away. Yeah. So look at you just telling it you can't be here in my room. Goodbye.
Yeah. It's mostly because I was really scared, and the things that happened before, they had spooked me, but I never really felt, threatened or to be made fully afraid. So what are your guys' thoughts about that whole thing? About allowing, spirits or whatever to remain? As some people just wanted to get them out no matter what.
My own personal feeling on it is if it's not bothering you, if it's not creating havoc in your life and you're okay with it being there, let it stay. If you are uncomfortable with it there, or if you're finding it threatening or any of those things and you just don't want it there, just glad you enjoyed this place. I'm going to enjoy it now without you here. Goodbye.
That's largely how I feel.
Yeah. You just reminded me, I completely forgot. I just recently worked at a haunted bar. I did a job, I worked for...
Oh, that's right.
I did a day job for the Travel Channel where I was a production assistant for Most Haunted Places. And it was really cool. And I got to check out this haunted bar on Long Island called Katie's Bar. For some reason, when you were talking about letting the ghost stay, it reminded me of this one story that I've never really heard a ghost story like this before. It's kind of cool. The guy said that early on into him having owned this bar, there's a staircase in the basement, the back staircase, and it's a really steep staircase, and there's a door right at the top of it. And he was saying that he would have trouble getting the door to close all the way. He would have to pull it really hard. And this one night there was nobody there, and he pulled it really hard and it broke, and he fell backwards down the stairs, or started to fall backwards down the stairs. And something caught him. Felt like two hands on his back stop him. And he didn't fall down the stairs.
That's a nice one.
Wow.
And I've never really heard a story like that. I think it's kind of cool that that the ghost was looking out for him. And he was saying that he believed it could have been his father's spirit, or it could have been the spirit that lived there, just looking out for him because he was taking care of the place. But I just thought it was cool because it seemed like the ghost was like, "No, don't. I got you, dude. I got you." And he gave, and he like touched him. It's the same thing where people say they feel like they get touched, but in this case, he got touched for a good reason.
Mm-hmm. So whenever I hear those stories, I always think of like guardian angels, because I know people who have said that they've been like working on windows outside and the ladder falls and they say they just feel someone push them back at the house. Or you always have these stories of that happening, and they always tell me with like tears in their eyes every time that like they really believe it was a guardian angel coming for them.
I love it. And people getting pulled from cars, burning cars, and accidents and stuff. Drea, why don't you give us your best Sylvia Brown? And what is this thing I keep seeing? What is it? What is it, Sylvia? Please tell me.
Water. No, I couldn't. My voice isn't as raspy right now. I had the best Sylvia Brown when I had lost my voice and I got it back, but
it's your guardian angel, darling.
She's a little bit of a deep cut. She's a little bit of a deep cut. We may need to explain who Sylvia Brown is. I think she's.
I think anyone who was alive in I don't know, the 90s, 2000s, whatever, you know Sylvia Brown.
Yeah, I think anyone listening to this knows Sylvia Brown. Yeah.
That's one. Most of ours, we don't really go after too many people. But after Sylvia Brown, somehow Sylvia Brown, that's one of those things they ever say, it's got a long tail. Somehow our post about Sylvia Brown episode on Instagram, I'm literally once every other month we'll get you don't really know, Sylvia was light and love and blah, blah, blah. And we're like, okay, what? This was 6 months ago. Why do you keep constantly? I don't know why.
Well, the one thing that bothers me about the people that will keep bringing that up is they are assuming that we don't believe that psychics do exist and that stuff is real. Then that our angle on it, it's like, you know what? Why don't you go listen to the episode so you can see why we brought up this? It's a certain thing where it's like, psychics aren't always right 100% of the time. I'm like, yeah, but when they're not, they can actually own up to it and they don't double down and then get insulting about it. So that was my beef with her, was that she was mean about it. And she was like, no, I'm right. You're not seeing it.
Yeah, and I remember listening to that episode, and when you guys said that, I felt the exact same way, because I used to read professionally for people, and that's actually one of the reasons I stopped, is people were just because as any psychic or anyone in that work, you're never going to be 100% right. Well, you can be, but right, like you're never 100%. And the more I did it, and the more people I had coming in, people started asking really heavy questions. Like really heavy, and at a certain point, like you just have to be like I can't do this. You know what I mean? Like
yeah. It's one of those things too, Amelia. I feel is a double-edged sword. When you have the sensitivity and the ability to kind of sense these things and pick up on this stuff, you're also so sensitive to like everything, the negativity as well, and it can chase you away, which is why it's so weird with people like Sylvia who are jerks about it,
right? And
but
taking
I
people's
you
money,
for done it in the first place. It's hard, you can feel everyone's everything, and I used to have a lot of trouble going to cemeteries, not because I was spooked by the prospect of ghosts, but I mean it would be where I'd be sitting in the back seat on like a trip, that my parents and I were on, and I would suddenly start to feel really just upset and anxious and like not know why. Like I would have my headphones on listening to music and reading, and I'm like all of a sudden just feeling really uncomfortable, and then I look up and I'm like, oh, we're driving by a cemetery, and you feel everything. And so it's really it's a difficult thing to kind of to do. And so like I said, I commend you for having done that.
Even with the dead, you're hearing hola mija.
Thanks for that brevity, Russ.
Hola, mija. Hola, mija.
I forgot about that clip.
And I'm upset because when we were talking about creepy kids, I never got to.
I can't believe I was that close to a ride. Have you ever seen a Chewbacca?
That's a creepy kid. That's a creepy
That was my
clip.
favorite clip. No, yeah, but I mean, I know obviously you guys have a bunch of stories yourselves and everything, but like, is there anything that kind of ever stuck with you from childhood that just kind of instantly had made you believe and get onto this path?
Oh yeah, I mean, I had tons of stuff growing up. Our grandmother was a psychic and astrologer, so. And our family is very, very religious. They're American Baptists, so we kind of always grew up with all that. around us. So talking about like angels and things like that was just kind of commonplace. One of my big things though is I grew up, I had a friend pass away and he kind of started visiting me a lot, and I'd be going for these runs and light posts would always be